4, 3, 2, 1. I just counted backwards in French. Welcome to the Fantasy Forecast. I am Bigz. He is Grindberg. We are Grindberg and Bigz. We are here to help build your champions. And what we're talking about today is running back roster holes out of the rookie class. Guys that I'm not going to draft. Mike's not going to draft. And we're here to tell you why. Producer! The guy I'm talking about today is Tennessee running back Jalen Wright. That's Wright with
Hello. Who you?
There he is, and I love that clip because he was so happy to be finding the end zone. A lot of people really like Jalen Wright. I don't necessarily not like Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is not very big. He's 5'10". He's in the 36th percentile. He's not very heavy. He's 210 pounds, which, it's bigger than Jahmyr Gibbs. There's not a lot to not like about him. He ran a 4.38 40. That's super fast. The guy's fast. 74th percentile, which pretty much tracks in his 10-yard split, 1.55 seconds. He's explosive. He had a 38-inch vertical. He also had 134, blew the roof off the broad jump. So he's explosive. Why don't I like him? Well, first of all, he's a 3-star recruit out of high school, and the performance of 3-star recruits isn't as good at the running back position as 5 and 4-star recruits. So when we're looking at that as a corollary metric, it doesn't speak a lot for him. He went to Tennessee, and Tennessee had kind of a unique offense. And in that offense, he saw nobody in the box. Most of his college production came in really, really light boxes, and he didn't do a whole lot. So when he gets into the NFL, and he's in a situation like Josh Jacobs was last year, where Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback, and there is no vertical threat down the field, and the defense can put 7, 8 guys in the box and stack the box. There's not going to be a whole lot of room for him to move around, and there's not going to be a lot of open field opportunity for him to show off his speed. So we want to look at his vision, how he gets to holes, how he waits for holes to open up for him, things like that. And he wasn't very good in some of those on film hidden kind of elements of being a good running back, especially given the fact that he wasn't seeing heavy boxes when he was in college. So it's kind of a detriment to him that he actually went to Tennessee. If he had gone to a school that was, saw more competitive defensive fronts, we might have had a truer idea of who Jalen Wright is. Now, physically and in your combine metrics and things like that, he looks very good, but I'm not buying it. There are at least 5 or 6 other guys in this rookie class that I would prefer to have. So Jalen Wright gets my fade, and if he's successful in the NFL, it's going to be on somebody else's roster, not mine.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, there was a lot that was riding on his 40 time for a lot of people, and he did post a really good 40 time because of his size. He needed to do that. Like you said, there's some other guys in positions that just are probably safer plays at this stage of the game, in my opinion, right? And that's probably why some people have Jalen Wright in the top 5, and I just don't see it, because I just don't see him anything more than a complimentary back at this stage, and I just can't have that as a guy that in the top 5. When you got like a guy like Blake Corum or Braylon Allen, the Marshawn Lloyds, and even Trey Benson, I think they're they're in a position to
There,
outperform.
there's multiple Marshawn Lloyds. I thought there was just the one.
No, there's one.
Oh,
There's one and
oh, oh,
only.
categorizing guys like the Marshawn.
Like
I got it.
Marshawn
I got
Lawrence.
it.
Yeah.
Now, is this to say that Jalen Wright is not going to have a successful career in the NFL where he sticks around for 6, 7 years and
Oh, for sure.
makes some pretty good money? No, I'm not saying that at all. Am I saying that he's not the kind of guy who's going to enter your fantasy roster and put together, a top 12 league winning season? It doesn't seem that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what he might be getting drafted as. We'll see where his landing spot goes, but yeah, I got my guard up on him. I do like a lot of the metrics like you'd mentioned. So say if he gets a spot like I don't know, like the Chargers, do you like him there?
Yeah, I mean, in a Greg Roman offense, I like everybody.
Yeah, and that's fair. So just a matter of landing spots too. I mean, I just don't think a guy like that will go there. So he's more a complimentary guy. So yeah, I like that take. So I got a guy here as my fade, and he's very similar to Biggs's guy, and I'm going to talk about him. Hopefully, I
Producer!
got the right. Yeah, so that's Bucky Irving, if you didn't know. And he
Yes.
had a couple good years at Oregon after transferring from Minnesota, running over 1,000 yards and at least 35 catches in each of those seasons with Oregon. He led all running backs with 53 receptions in 2023. These are pretty good stats, and I was very optimistic on him headed into the combine with those numbers. But just like Jalen Wright, he needed to run a great 40 time, and he just didn't. He looked slow. So the combine came, and it was a very poor showing for Bucky Irving. He ranked near the bottom of all the combine testing metrics for the running back class. He almost was better off not testing at all. With Bucky's size at 5'9", 192 pounds, you would be hard pressed to find a team that is willing to give him more than a complimentary role. Bucky projects to be nothing more than a third down back, in my opinion. The change of pace kind of guy at his size, just like Jalen Wright. He needed to run that sub 40 to be considered a top 5 back in this class. Instead, he posted an unimpressive 4.55. His vert was 29.5 and his broad jump was 9.7. These aren't indicative of a very explosive player. You know, his RAS score was very low and disappointing, so his burst is impressive. There are concerns about his launch speed and his endurance. Despite the show of plenty of game speed, his testing numbers suggest he's just, he's not nothing more than a complimentary guy. His vision, his creativity, and his ability to find the hidden yardage are undeniable strengths, but he does not fit the mold of like a high volume, every down kind of, workhorse back. And he's going to be design plays. He's going to be, dynamic out of the backfield. I'll give him that. He's going to have some substantial value if a team is looking for that type of back. But I'm not holding my breath after the combine testing. There probably will be a team that takes a chance on Bucky Irving. However, my fear is now he won't garner enough draft capital that he'll be buried in, charts. He'll have to prove himself. His pass protection is a concern as well, combined with his lack of size, will make him tough to be trusted on third down as a specialist. So, despite the ideally he's a reliable pass catcher, ultimately he probably won't hit day 2 or even day 3 draft capital. He might even go undrafted at this stage. So, I'm a little bit hesitant to put anything in Bucky Irving. I'm staying away from him, and he's a big time fade for me in this running back class.
Yeah, his ceiling is going to be 4 to 6 passing targets in a game. He might be able to score a touchdown, but touchdown is one of the most predicting touchdowns is one of the most unreliable statistics that we have out there. It's no matter how many touchdowns you score, it it's the hardest thing to predict. It's the hardest number to return to if you have, like a good year with a lot. The only exception being if you have very few, it's not likely you're going to have that few again. When I say few, I mean like 1 or 2 touchdowns for somebody who has a high target volume, high target share. So I do see Bucky Irving doing some good things when he has the ball in his hands in the right scheme. I mean, imagine if he goes to the 49ers, what they could do with him 5 to 6 times a game. But that's his ceiling. He's not going to get 15 carries a game. He's not going to get 20 carries a game. He's not going to get goal line carries. And like you said, he's not a great pass blocker. So being on the field for third down is maybe going to be a work in progress. So on our other show, we and when I say other show, I mean the Dynasty Pulse, we talked about combine winners and losers. And I don't think there was a bigger loser at the combine than Bucky Irving this year.
Yeah, agreed. And he needed that to do well, and it just didn't fall for him. And just like all these guys here, they need to be in the right range to be tested, and they didn't test well. And some of these performances are really lacking. And a guy like Braylon Allen, who didn't test, probably better off at this stage, because a guy like Bucky Irving didn't, and it was detrimental to him. And a guy like Braylon Allen didn't need to test because we know there's some teams that have their eyes on him. So yeah, pretty interesting market, this running back class. Out of the top of your head, Biggs, you got a couple of guys in this draft class that you may think as a hidden gem, maybe for these viewers to think about. Maybe give us a name or two.
Hidden gem. Look for Kamani Vidal to have. Look for his draft capital. A lot of these guys, it's going to be dependent on their draft capital and their situation. So if Kamani Vidal goes to the right situation and he's drafted high enough to not be threatened over the next couple of years, he might have a pretty good season this year. Kamani Vidal, and then who else do I like? I've already covered Braylon Allen and Audric Estime. Look out for Kamani Vidal. Dylan Lobby, out of University of New Hampshire. He's a smaller school guy, and he fits the mold of like a Danny Woodhead guy, a true third down back who can pass block and does catch passes, and he runs routes and stuff like that. If he can kind of push himself into the 10 to 12 carries per game plus the 5 or 6 necessary receptions, I think he could be a really, really sneaky play. But yeah, that's about it for now. I'm drawing a blank, Mike. You put me on the spot. This wasn't on the show sheet.
I love it. I think the Kamali Vidal one was an excellent off the top. And I got one for you too, and I want to know your thoughts on Will Shipley, because I think that he's getting a lot of momentum coming out now, and I just love his game. I love his size. He's got some good speed. What are your thoughts on Will Shipley, and do you think that he could be a guy that is underrated that might be turning some heads in this draft?
Here are my thoughts on Will Shipley. Everything that I just said about Dylan Lobby, apply that to Will Shipley. Yeah. Only give him better draft capital because he came from Clemson and not University of New Hampshire. So same skill set, probably with the ability to take over a backfield if he is the third down back and the first and second down back gets hurt in front of him, he will have the ability to show the team that he can handle the load. So sneaky Will Shipley. I wish I had thought of that. Good one, Mike. If we go back, I changed my answer. I love everything I said about Lobby. Apply to Shipley. Only he's going to be drafted higher probably, which will mean that he'll have more opportunity in the NFL and on your fantasy team.
Yeah, awesome, Biggs. I think our viewers got some really, really awesome content the last 3 shows on this rookie running back class because they needed that clarity, and I think we've given them quite a bit there. There's a couple of guys that we didn't touch base on, but like your Trey Benson, a very similar profile to your Marshawn Lloyd, and Blake Corum is another guy that has been touted as a top 5 guy. Any thoughts on him before we end this show off, so the viewers get a little bit of information on all of these guys?
I think Blake Corum is right around the middle of the class. I think a lot of his upside, his steam, is coming from the fact that people think that he's going to have draft capital by being taken by Jim Harbaugh. If that happens, yeah, I like Blake Corum, but on paper, as it stands, he he falls into the 4 to 7 range of the class for me. So there's guys that I like more than him. He's definitely better than some other guys. So he's right there in that middle of the class. Yeah. But again, we're this is April 12th. We haven't had the draft yet. There hasn't been a training camp. We haven't looked at injuries or anything like that. But guess what? Let me get close. Let me talk to you real quick. Mike and I are going to be around. We're going to be here for April. We're going to be here after the draft. We're going to be here through rookie camp. We're going to be here through training camp. We're going to be here through the preseason. And we're going to have you. We're going to have you when the season comes around. Just keep following us for that analysis, and we'll tell you exactly which of these guys has risen, fallen. We'll be back to revisit all of these folks come the fall.
Absolutely. Especially when the seasons change and the forecasts change.
They're changing now. I'm just like allergies all over the place. Old man.
That's why this show is so important, right? It shows us that just like the dynasty, like the landscape in fantasy football, it changes like the forecast, and we're here to keep you on target and ahead of the schedules. Hopefully, we're better than these meteorologists, because some of them are pretty bad.
Yes.
All right, Bigz. Let's end this show on a high note. Thanks everybody for joining us on the Fantasy Forecast on the Football Advice Network.
That's what you meant, right?
I'm Grindberg.
I know.
He's Bigz. He can hit the high notes. I can't. Hope you win, everybody.